All right. So why don't you tell me a little bit about Leonardo, a wonderful show about a terrible monster coming to the Children's Theater Company here in Minneapolis?
So Leonardo is a show like you've never seen before. It feels like the books coming to life on stage cinematically in front of you. So when you get to the theater, you're going to see a big screen that's actually kind of shaped like a book page in the center. And then on stage is a lot of stuff. There's a little coffee table with like binders and 500 paper puppets kind of squirreled away inside of it. There's a big center area with a camera and a glowing backdrop that has a lot of bits of cardboard and paper around, and then a station with a guitar for our musician and narrator. And all of these elements work together on stage in full view of the audience to create the show on the big screen above.
The Children's Theater has always done a great job of making things interactive, kind of taking advantage of newer technologies and just making it an immersive environment. You are the director. You're also the co-artistic director. What sort of opportunity do those things, using the multimedia, using the different spaces, allow you, and what sort of difficulties maybe do they bring to the fold as you're putting this together?
Oh, what a good question. Well, we love the kind of split screen effect of seeing the making of at the same time as you see the final product. And it gives the audience, yeah, a sense of agency or choice. So at any moment, you could look at Lily playing all the original music. You could look at the puppeteers moving bits of paper, or you can look at the big screen above where the story is unfolding. And there really is no wrong way to watch a show. We make a lot of shows for adults, but we were really excited to make this show for families and kiddos because we're hoping that it inspires them to make their own things and to look differently, say at movies and television as they're watching them, to think about, oh, all of the pieces of the story were constructed and put together by people, and maybe I could do that too. In terms of difficulty, ooh, I mean, there are so many difficult things, but that's part of the fun of it. Being in the show, sometimes I play Sam in the show too, is a little bit like being part of a NASCAR pit crew because everyone's doing everything and we kind of take a breath together before the show and come out, and then we're all going until the end of the show to make everything happen.
Obviously, when you have stories like this that are adapted from kids' books, you have a plot line that is kind of geared towards kids, but not always when you're on stage is the audience primarily kids. What special considerations do you have to put into play when you have attention spans and maybe noises coming from the crowd that you normally wouldn't at, let's say, well, I don't want to call it an adult theater, but a different sort of theater?
Yeah, we thought a lot about that because kids don't come to shows by themselves. Even the school shows, there's teachers there. In the public shows, there's tons of family members. So we made a show that we would want to see too. So there's a lot of jokes for the adults, like the bullies are kind of based on the bullies from the Karate Kid movies from when I was a kid in the 90s. There's a lot of like funny throwaway gags, like the monsters come in, drinking Starbucks, Starbucks coffee cups. And there's jokes that are trying to hit different ages. Another thing that was really important to us is that the music is all really good. As a parent, my child watches some stuff that I love that's fabulous, like Shaun the Sheep, but also watches some stuff with some really just terrible music. So when we were writing the original songs for this piece, we were like, each of these needs to be a jam that no matter what age you are, you'd be like delighted to like sing it or have it stuck in your head.
Yeah, as a parent of two young boys who gets those earworms, firmly supplanted in the brain, I appreciate that. I have noticed a little bit more of a focal point, maybe towards that. I don't know, and maybe you could let a little insight to this. It sounds like maybe the approach from the musicians, the composers that are putting these music together are are now understanding, hey, we are speaking to both of those audiences because the kids don't come alone. We do want this to be something that can be enjoyable for everybody so people can remember it with that kind of fondness, but at the same time, we want it to be singable. We want it to be catchy, but not in the sense of, I just remember Lamb Chop. Remember Lamb Chop, the little
Oh yeah.
and the song the song that never ends, and it just, those sorts of things. You mentioned that you thought about that when you were putting this together. Is that a general consensus? Have you seen a shift in that world that maybe that's a bigger focal point to make, the immersive environment, the music, all ages accessible and all ages enjoyable?
Gosh, That's a good question. I hope so, because yeah, on one hand you have things like Coco Melon with those like truly terrible songs, and also bad CGI. Like that is the thing in my house, the hill that sometimes I die on, which is like we can't watch bad animation, especially because like we're illustrators and we're like in the arts industry. But then you've always had like really good quality children's program that has really good original music. Like Sesame Street is something that we referred to a lot when we were making this show, or Yo Gabba Gabba, which I think, both of those are really the gold standard. And a lot of them had experimental animators, like contemporary musicians coming on, making stuff for kids, but like very much in their own style, not with like a sense of pandering, but with a sense of, here's the idea for this episode, and like, here's the way I can bring like my full artistry to it.
Yeah. I'm going to try and separate this question from the first one that I asked, because I think there's a little more depth to be had there. But you've mentioned anyone who goes to the theater has seen the magic of the theater, the things that people are able to do, that the artists are able to do, that the cast members, the set directors are able to bring to life on stage. You're taking a couple different elements. It sounds like video, it sounds like puppeteering, it sounds like acting, all kind of putting it into one. What does that do for the story? Does it allow you some different freedoms there as far as, I don't know if it's voices or if it's storytelling or just connection piece maybe with the different ages in the audience?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it allows us to move both at the speed of theater. So like the artists, the puppeteers, and the musician are like moving in real time, but also lets us move at the speed of like a movie or a TV show, because with the paper puppets we can do cuts. So it's just made out of a binder like the kids might have in school with pieces of paper in it. But the way we flip it in front of camera and manipulate different illustrations in front of it allows us to create things that say look like a music video. So we're doing these kind of like fast-paced live illustration, puppeteering animations during all of the songs. It also allows us to have this kind of giant sense of scale, but that can also interact with like every kid individually. So our narrator and our musician, Lily Emerson, who is just a powerhouse. She's a Chicago treasure. She's extremely good at improvisation. So we built this piece of the show around her because she is the voiceover artist. Like in a cartoon, she's creating all the voices, and the actors are lip syncing along with her. So in a way, we're puppets too. And in the middle of the show, she runs out of ideas for things that the kids might like to do together. And she asks the audience and has the audience yell them out. And then she improvises the answers, a different answer for every single show, for the hundreds of shows that we've done. And the actors have to like lip sync along with her, a little bit like improvised drunk history. This is a reference for the parents. And so that is like truly one of my favorite parts of the show, especially when kids come with like a wild out there recommendation of a thing they like to do. Like once we heard a kid say like breathing. I like breathing. And she had the characters like talk about that and how great it is. And the kids that were in that section of the audience where the recommendation came from just lost their minds.
Yeah, that's so fun. The interaction is a good part of the children's theater too, and all the shows. I want to take it a little to the personal side about you a little bit. We have a son who is very into musical theater. He's 10 years old. I'm going to hang up this phone call with you, and we're going to go rehearse his Aladdin Junior musical that he has coming up. But so this is, a personal thing for our family, but also something that I think I am kind of unassumingly going to turn into my mission and just kind of figure out ways that people get into this profession. How did you get into this? Were you acting first and saw the work that goes in behind the scenes? What's your story from the beginning to the point where you are today, directing, co-artist, director, all these things that you're bringing to the table?
Yeah, great question. So I didn't study theater. I went to the University of Chicago, and I studied biology and literature as my double major. But one of the ways I feel like I got really lucky is that when I was there wasn't like a professional track in theater. There was a theoretical degree that was just starting up that was kind of the study of performance. But they did have this student theater group, in which case we could pitch like any show we wanted to do, and get like a little bit of money to like put it on with fellow students. So we got to write like a lot of original pieces and do a lot of kind of fun, wild things. There's also like a circus group. And so Drew, my husband, and I, we met at the university, and we're two of the five artistic directors. And I do think that ending up in manual cinema was not just a straight line from the university, but also is very much based on the fact that we're in Chicago. Chicago is a really great city for interdisciplinary theater and interdisciplinary art. When we were just starting out, we weren't just like trying to make it in like theaters or have a season. We were playing at bars. We were playing in the windows of giant buildings that people were during arts festivals or walking on the street and can look up and see our projections there. We were playing as part of poetry festivals and experimental sound and music nights. And that kind of like crossover and like willingness to collaborate too, like between the musicians and the puppeteers and people who are visual artists and people who are coming from theater feels like a very Chicago thing. I'm not sure it could have happened anywhere else.
Yeah.
And we all worked all sorts of kind of side jobs, like teaching and doing bookkeeping and scooping ice cream, so that when we started up and started making shows, and then eventually we were able to take the shows to New York and to Edinburgh and become a touring company. And then this has kind of become our life's work and our full-time jobs.
That's amazing. Well, we as a family are excited to come see Leonardo in a wonderful show about a terrible monster. We're excited to get back to the Children's Theater, and thank you for your time. We will officially end the interview there. I'll cut it up and do that later. But again, thanks for your patience. And
no
thanks
problem.
For
I guess a little too.
Yeah, this is such a fun thing, and I really do mean it when it's an opportunity to really look forward to connecting that generation to something that doesn't have the funding in the schools as it used to, and I think is losing attention elsewhere. We homeschool, so we have a little more autonomy as far as what we can do and when we can do it, and this is part of it. It's the opportunity to really hone into what their passions are, and this is one of his passions. So it's fun.
I love that. And I was talking about Chicago, but Minneapolis is such like an incredible art city. Just the amount of like public art you all have and arts funding, and also puppetry. I feel like it's like one of the premier puppet cities in the U.S. And we actually, one of the performers in this run, we cast her out of Minneapolis. She's like a Minneapolis-based puppeteer, and she grew up going to CTC, and now she's gonna be like in the show for the 10 weeks puppeteering. So yeah, definitely like homegrown talent.